All right. Welcome to lesson 2 of the Allen Mentoring SAT Every Question Revealed, where I'll be going through every single question in the famous SAT Blue Book. Today we are on lesson number, we are on book 1. All right, so it's the very first SAT practice test, and we are on the calculator section. So if you want actually a link to this test, you just check the description, and it's pretty cool, but they offer all the tests for free. I had no idea. I thought you had to buy that blue book on Amazon for like 15 bucks, but apparently they just have them on their own website, totally legit, totally free, and that's what I'm using today. And if you missed yesterday's lesson, that's fine. Just go to the YouTube channel and you'll see lesson 1. They have the full stream from Sunday. And then last piece of logistics, the stream schedule is every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you're available for any of those days, please tune in. It'll be a lot better than watching the video later because you can ask your own questions. I'll take some extra time to respond to your questions. That's my #1 priority because honestly, talking for 2 hours straight is really tough on the throat. I learned that on Sunday. So today we'll be taking a few breaks and I might be showing you a few videos. But as of now, we're going to be jumping into question 22. It's in the it's section 4 of the first practice test. Again, that's linked below if you want to watch with me or work through it with me. And honestly, if you want to do it yourself and you want to give out the answers in the chat, feel free to do so. I'm on delay anyway, and it might help me out. Oh, hey, Bob Gills. I see somebody new in the chat. Welcome. And also, if you hit the subscribe button, a cool little pop-up will come up with the logo, and I'll give you a little shout-out. So if you want to subscribe, and I guess you'll get an email every time I'm on, just hit the subscribe button below. And yeah, let's get started. So question 22. We start with a table of annual budgets for different programs in Kansas from 2007 to 2010. And I see we have a bunch of programs here, the years, and how much they spent. And since they don't really give you a dollar amount here, you should look below and it'll say that these amounts are in thousands of dollars. So 373,904 actually means 373 million because these are written in thousands. So that might be useful to look at when you're taking the test. So 22. Which of the following best approximates the average rate of change in the annual budget for agriculture/natural resources in Kansas from 2008 to 2010? Okay, so we're looking at agriculture/natural resources. So that would be this line right here. And they're asking, what is the average rate of change from 2008 to 2010? So how do you calculate average rate of change? It's pretty easy. All you do is you take the highest value, you subtract it from the lowest value, and then you divide it by how many steps up that ladder it went. So in this example, the upper value is 488,106. We want to see the difference between 2010 and 2008, and then divide that by how many years passed, right? So we know that 2 years passed from 2008 to 2010. We just want to find the difference first. So we want to do, so let's go down here. We want to do 488,106 minus 358,708, and we want to divide that by 2 because that's how many years passed. And this will give us the average rate of change from 2008 to 2010. So I have my handy dandy calculator here. So let's see. I'm going to do, what are those values? It was 488,108 minus 358,708. Okay, and then I'm going to take that value and divide it by 2 because I want the average rate of change per year. There's only been 2 years. And so now I get 64,700. And it says approximate, so that approximates to about 65 million. And again, if you're confused, wait a minute, I have 64,000 here. Why is it 65 million? Again, these are measured in thousands of dollars. Okay, so we want to add another 3 zeros to the end of that. All right, let's move on. Number 23. Of the following, which program's ratio of its 2007 budget to its 2010 budget is closest to the Human Resources Program's ratio of its 2007 budget to its 2010 budget? So basically it's asking us which of the other categories has the same ratio as Human Resources does from 2007 to 2010. And it's saying which is closest. So that tells me that I probably want to approximate the ratio. So I see for Human Resources, it's 4 million to about 6 million. So if I'm doing 4 million to 6 million, I can reduce that to about 4 to 6 or about 2 to 3. So I'm looking for one of the other categories to have the same ratio. So something like 2 to 3. So if I look, let's start with agriculture, natural resources. I see I have 374,000 to about 488,000. So if I approximate that, that's about 400,000 to 500,000. So that's about 4 to 5, right? That doesn't work. Let's look at education. This is about 2 million to 3 million. That actually works pretty well, right? Because 2 million to 3 million reduces to 2 to 3. So this looks pretty good. We could probably put education right now, but let's see what the other choices are. Highways and transportation. This is about 1.5 to 1.8, right? So that's not what we're looking for. And then public safety is 270,000, which is about, or 260,000, which is, let's say, 300,000 to 500,000. So that's 3 to 5. So that doesn't work. So we're pretty sure that education is the right answer. It has a 2 to 3 ratio. And again, if at any time I'm going too fast, you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask me in the chat, and I can slow down, I can review something. Because if you have a problem, chances are a lot of other people watching right now also do. All right, 24. Which of the following is an equation of a circle in the xy plane with a center 0, 4, and a radius with endpoints 4/3, 5? So the way to answer this question, first off, you need to know what the equation is of a circle. If you haven't seen this before, the general equation of a circle goes as follows. It's x minus h squared plus y minus, oh, that's a terrible k squared is equal to r squared. And if you're new to the channel, you know that my handwriting is absolutely terrible, so just ignore some of these scribbles and just pay attention to what I'm saying. It'll be a lot clearer, I promise. So what does this equation mean? Well, hk, if I write hk, this is actually the coordinate for the center of the circle. Okay, so this is the center of the circle. All right, h is the x-coordinate of the center, and k is the y-coordinate of the center. And then r should be obvious. R is the radius. Okay, so here I'm looking for, first off, to plug in the center of the circle. I know it's going to be x minus 0, right, because the center is 0. So it's going to be x minus 0 squared plus y minus 4 squared, because 4, as we see here, is the y-coordinate of the center, is equal to r squared. So right away, I see that I have to have y minus 4. So I can knock off this guy, and I can knock off this guy. And so next, I'm trying to figure out which one of these has the radius correct. Okay, so is it 25/9 or is it 5/3? All right, and how do I know what the radius is of the circle? Well, they tell us that the end point is 4/3, 5. So if I have, let's say I'm drawing a really kind of rough sketch here. If the center is at 0, 4, right, that's about 4. The end point of the circle is at 4/3, 5. Oops, sorry. The end point is going to be at 4/3, 5, somewhere there, right? That's 4/3, 5. okay? And the circles kind of look like that. It's maybe the worst circle I've ever drawn. So our goal is to find out what is the length of that radius there, okay? Well, we see that actually we can form a right triangle, right? There's a right triangle formed here. One side of the right triangle is 1, okay? So that would be over there. 1 goes here, and this side is 4/3, okay? So if we use Pythagorean theorem for this, we see that we can calculate that hypotenuse, right, the longest side of that triangle, by going a squared, 1 squared, plus b squared, okay, is equal to r squared. So what is 1 squared plus 4/3 squared? Well, 4/3 squared is, again, 4/3 times 4/3, so that's 16 over 9. And 1 squared is just 1. So what is 1 plus 16 over 9? Oops, that's a bad plus. What is 1 plus 16 over 9? Well, 1 we could change to 9 over 9, right? We could just change that to a denominator or a like denominator and add those together. So we have 25 over 9 is equal to r squared. And remember, in our equation, r squared is the last part, right? It's after the equal sign. So we know that A is the correct equation for this circle. All right, so there are a lot of steps to this. You had to know Pythagorean theorem. You had to know the equation of a circle. If any of those topics are confusing to you, I suggest you go over those again because, especially Pythagorean theorem, I mean, that's crucial for this test. And the equation of a circle, you'll probably see that maybe once or twice per SAT, so it might be wise to look over that again. So I'm looking into the chat and I see Bob Gills writes, can you please go over questions that ask like what a number to a fractional exponent is? Like I know 2 to the power of 1/2 is square root, but what if it's 2 to the power of 3/5 or 4/9? Oh, that's actually a great question. And maybe we can take an aside to go over that. Let's maybe take the space right here. So Bob Gills asks, if you have something like, let's say, 2 to the 1/2 power, okay? He knows that this is equal to the square root of 2, okay? But what if you have something like 2 to the 2/3 power? Okay, it's a great question. So when you have fractional exponents, okay, the number in the numerator of this fraction is actually just a regular exponent. Okay, so if I was to, let's say, write, right, I'm going to get rid of this for a second. If I was to do 2 to the 2/1 power, right, the 2 is in the numerator, this would just be equal to 2 squared. Okay, 2 to the 3/1 is equal to 2 to the 3rd power. Okay, so the number in the numerator is just a regular exponent. Okay, and if I was even to change this to 2 to the 3/2, okay, this would just be 2 to the 3rd power and then all of that squared. So the number in the numerator is just a regular exponent. Okay, the number in the denominator, that actually refers to the root of that number. So when you say, okay, 2 to the 1/2 power, 2 to the 1/2 power, that just means the square root, right? And we write square roots like this. But what about something like 8 to the 1/3 power, okay? This means that it's a cube root. And the cube root you would write in here. So you'd write 8, and the cube root is a little 3 that goes right in there, if I don't mess this up. Right in there. Okay, and what a cube root says is what number times itself again, right? So what number, right, this times itself, right? It's going 3 times, will be equal to 8. Okay, what number? And we know that number is 2, right? 2 times 2 times 2 is equal to 8. So the cube root of 8 is equal to 2. Okay, and if I was to do, let's say, 16 to the 1/4 power, right? That's like the 4th root. So that's equal to 16 and put this in here, and you get the fourth root. All right, so what times itself times itself times itself is equal to 16? Well, that's also equal to 2, right? 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Okay, and you can kind of mix and match these together, right? You can have something like 16, or sorry, you could have something like 4 to the 2/3 power, okay, and that would be 4 squared, okay, 4 squared, and then that taking the cubic root. All right, so I hope that helps. The numerator is just a regular exponent, and the denominator is what root of that number are you referring to. So I hope that helped. Bob Gills, thank you for asking your question. If anybody else has any requests, please feel free to write in the chat. All right, 25. The equation above expresses the approximate height, h, in meters of a ball t seconds after it is launched, vertically upward from the ground, with an initial velocity of 25 meters per second. After approximately how many seconds will the ball hit the ground? So after how many seconds will the ball hit the ground? Well, we're trying to find out t, which is seconds, right? But we have two variables. We have h and we have t, right? So how can we find out t if we don't know what h is? Well, they give us a hint, right? They tell us after how many seconds will the ball hit the ground, okay? And we know that h stands for height, right? So think about it. What is the height of the ball when it hits the ground, right? The height of the ball is 0 because it goes up and it comes down, right? And at this point, I gotta turn that feature off. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna figure it out, guys, I promise. At that point, h is equal to 0. Okay, so we wanna set h equal to 0 and solve for t somehow. So this is our new equation. And if you guys have been in this stream before, you know that my 4s magically turn into like a weird 9, like a box 9. I have no idea how that happens. I'm also gonna figure that out. All right, this is the second stream. We're new at this. We're gonna get better, get stronger, and we'll figure it out together. All right, so this is our equation. We want to solve for t. This should be a familiar form, okay? This is a quadratic equation where all you have is two terms and they both have the same variable. This is pretty much solved the same exact way every time. The first step you want to do is you want to factor out that variable. So I see t is shared in both of these terms. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to factor t out of both of these terms. So if I divide t by negative 4.9 t squared, what do I have remaining? I have negative 4.9 t. And here I have 25 left, right? Because I divided 20, how did I do that? I divided 25t divided by t, okay? And now I'm trying to solve this equation here. Well, I have two answers. First off, this t right here, if that's equal to 0, then this entire thing will be equal to 0, and this equation will be correct. So we know that one of the solutions is t equals 0. That's one of the solutions. Okay, it's a quadratic equation, so there must be two solutions. The second solution is right in here, right in these parentheses, right? Think about it. If that parentheses is equal to 0, then this entire side will be equal to 0. Okay, so our second equation we figure out by setting, you see this? I'm telling you. By setting negative 4.9t plus 25 equal to 0. All right, if this parentheses is equal to 0, then our entire equation will be equal to 0. So you should be able to solve this. Just like any other equation, we want to do the opposite to both sides. The opposite to both sides. So what's the opposite of adding 25? We want to subtract 25 on both sides. Okay, running out of room here. I'm famous for this. Negative 4.9t is equal to negative 25. Okay, this gets crossed out here. And then t, again, what is the opposite of multiplying by negative 4.9? The opposite is dividing by negative 4.9. So we want to divide both sides by negative 4.9. Negative 4.9. Okay, this gets crossed out. And so t is equal to negative 25 divided by negative 4.9. It says approximately, right? So we can estimate 25 and 5. And we know that negative 25 divided by negative 5 is equal to 5. Okay? When you're dividing numbers with the same sign, either both negative or both positive, your solution will always be positive. Okay, so in our case, the answer is D. Now, by the way, remember how I said there are two solutions? 0 and 5. Well, this actually makes sense to you, right? Because at 0 seconds, the ball is still on the ground, right? You're still holding it on the ground. So after 0 seconds, h will be equal to 0. So it's kind of like a little trick question. But then after you throw it up, after 5 seconds, it'll come back down. And so t is 0 here, and it's 5 over there, if you were wondering. All right, 26. Katerina is a botanist studying the production of pears by two types of pear trees. She noticed that type A trees produced 20% more pears than type B trees. Based on Katerina's observation, if the type A trees produced 144 pears, how many pears did type B trees produce? All right, gotcha. So welcome Stealthy23 to the stream. Bob Gills writes, for question number 25, could you plug in the answer choices into the equation with your calculator and see which one is closest to 0? Yes, you could do that 100%. And honestly, I'm not as against plug and check as other teachers are. I think the goal of the SAT is to get the highest score possible, right? So if that strategy gets you through the questions quickest and you're pretty sure that you're correct, that's a fair strategy. You know, some teachers don't like it. They want you to show your work and do the questions, you know, legitimately. But I think it's okay if it works, and in that case, it does work to plug it in. So that's a great question. So in our case, we know that type A trees produce 20% more pears than type B trees, okay? And type A trees produce 144. So right away, we know that type B has to produce 20% less, right? So if type A produces 144, we know 173 cannot be the answer, right? It has to be less than 144. So how do we figure out which produces 20% less, right? How do we do that? Well, first of all, we want to find out, it's actually, I almost got tricked myself. You see that? I said, which produces 20% less. That's actually not what it says, right? It says type A trees produce 20% more. So if you have B trees, okay, and you multiply that by 20%, okay, you add that to how many B had originally, that should equal 144, right? That is different than saying, oh, let me find out what is 20% less of 144. That will give you different answers, right? So you want to pay attention to how they're asking you here. So in our case, again, whatever B had, we want to find out what 20% of that is, add that to the original B, and then we'll solve by setting it equal to 144. So how do you solve these type of problems? Well, we can change 20% into a decimal. It's actually easier to work with decimals than percents, right? So how do you change a percent to a decimal? You just move the decimal place 2 places to the left, okay? So I can rewrite this by saying 0.2b plus b is equal to 144, okay? And these are actually like terms, right? 0.2b, and this is actually 1b, right? We didn't write it, but we know secretly that's 1b. So 1b plus 0.2b equals 1.2b, which is equal, terrible handwriting as always, equal to 144. And so how do we solve this problem? Right? We divide 1.2 on both sides. Again, we're doing the opposite to both sides. So we're dividing by 1.2 on both sides. This cancels out. And what is 144 divided by 1.2? 120. Bam. All right, this is the calculator section. I'm not cheating, I promise. Okay. All right, let's move on. 27. All right, and I put a star on this, which means that this could trick a few people. All right, so let's see what the tricky part is here. All right, a square field measures 10 meters by 10 meters. 10 students each mark off a randomly selected region of the field. Each region is square and has sides of lengths of 1 meter, and no two regions overlap. So basically, it's a 10 by 10, like that, and then it's broken down into 10 of these like little mini squares, kind of. Okay, and each of these little mini squares is 1. So that's how they're organizing this. The students count the earthworms contained in the soil to a depth of 5 meters or 5 centimeters beneath the ground. So it's kind of like 3D, right? It's like 5 centimeters, and there are 1 square meter cubes. The results are shown in the table below. Which of the following is a reasonable approximation of the number of earthworms to a depth of 5 centimeters beneath the ground surface in the entire field? Aha. Okay. So I see basically students calculated, all right, in this region, this is region A, let's say, you have like 107. Okay. Here you have like 147. Here you have 146, so on and so forth. So I see on average, I don't know if you agree with me, but I see about like 150 earthworms per region. Okay, about 150 earthworms per region, right? We have like 107, 140, and so it's about 150 per region. And how many regions are there? Well, we know, right, it's 10 by 10, so there are 100 regions. So if it's 150 per region times 100, okay, we just want to add 2 more zeros to that. So 150 with 2 more zeros gets you 15,000. Okay, so in this case, the answer is C. I hope. 27, I got C. That's correct. So I put a star on this because I think the first time I saw this problem, it wasn't clear to me that there were 100 of these little squares. Like it only went up to J. So I'm thinking, well, if it only went up to J, does that mean there are only 10 regions? But no, they actually, that was just their sample for this problem. So with these types of questions, you just want to be extra careful. You don't want to mess up with 1 little zero. All right, just check it twice and feel confident that you got the right answer. All right, 28. If the system of inequalities y is greater than or equal to 2x plus 1, and y is greater than 1/2 x minus 1 is graphed in the xy plane above, which quadrant contains no solutions to the system? Okay, and they actually gave you the name of the quadrants here. You should be familiar with quadrants, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Luckily, they gave you the quadrants here, but some problems they might not. So make sure that you are very confident in knowing which quadrant is which. Okay. And Bob Gills, I see you have a question about number 27. I will come back to that right after 28. But thank you for asking. So let's see here. So the system of inequalities, y is greater than or equal to 2x plus 1. So how do we draw that? Well, we know you can draw this basically like a regular line. Let's imagine it's y is equal to 2x plus 1. All right? And if you guys are familiar with y equals mx plus b, b is equal to 1, right? So the y-intercept is 1 here, and the slope is equal to 2. So that means that we're going to be rising 2 and running over 1, right? Rise over run, rise over run. So it's going to be about like right here is going to be the next one, right there, then right there. So our line is going to be looking something like that. Okay? Cool. And it says greater than or equal to 2x plus 1. So that means that we want to shade somewhere, right? Either we're shading this way or we're shading this way. How do you know which way to shade though? One of my teachers, I remember, taught me this method, and I think it's very, very useful, right? What you do is you plug in 0, 0 into the equation, right? So I plug in 0 is greater than or equal to 0 plus 1. And I would see is 0 greater than 1? No, it's not at all, right? So if 0 is not greater than 1, you cannot include 0. So it must be drawn the other way. Bam. You see that right there? Okay. If this did work for 0 is greater than 1, then we would include 0 and we would draw it the other way. So it's kind of like a little test. And actually, we just solved the problem. Look, right? We see that quadrant 4 is the only quadrant that's not shaded, right? We didn't even have to do this other one. We see quadrant 4, it's totally open. So we know that quadrant 4 is the answer. All right, so that's pretty cool. We have to look at the second line. So Bob Gills, let's see what's up here. So you said you got 1,500. See, that was actually my mistake when I did the first time. Me and you made the same exact mistake. So the regions here, there aren't only 10 regions. They just gave you an example of 10 regions. If you read the problem, there's actually 100 regions in total, right? Because the field is 10 by 10, and each of the regions is 1 by 1, right? So there's actually 100 of these regions, and they only tell you about 10. So you want to multiply 150 times 100, not times 10. All right, so I hope you got that the second time. It also kind of threw me for a loop the very first time I did that. All right, and again, I see we have some new people in the stream. If you want to know exactly what time I'm on, please subscribe, and I'll give you a little shout out as soon as I see a little pop-up that comes up. And I believe you'll have an email or you'll get some sort of notification next time I'm streaming, okay? And that's going to be Thursday at 7 p.m. So I'd really appreciate it if you throw some subscribes my way, and I can kind of stay in touch with everybody who wants to see the content. So 29. For a polynomial p of x, the value of p of 3 is -2. Which of the following must be true about p of x? Okay? Which of the following must be true of p of x? So this is actually a pretty tricky problem. You have to be familiar with division, polynomial division, if you've ever worked with that, right? So we see here that the value of the function p of 3 is -2. All right. How are you going to see if these are factors, right? If these are factors of p of x. X minus 5 is a factor, x minus 2 is a factor, x plus 2 is a factor. Oh, I think my... can you guys hear me? I think my my stream is freaking out a little bit. Yep, so I'm dividing 2x minus 8 divided by x minus 3. Okay, and we see that when you do this, you multiply 2 times x minus 3, and you get 2x minus 6 here. Okay, again, when you divide polynomials, all you do is you take the leading number, leading variable, and we see that x goes into 2x 2 times, all right? And then you multiply this times the dividing polynomial, the binomial. So when we multiply this, we get 2x minus 6, and you subtract this, right? You see you get -2, okay? So the remainder when p of x is divided by x minus 3 is -2 is the correct answer. And you'll get that every single time, no matter what p of x is equal to. So I have a question, where did you get 2x minus 8? So yeah, that maybe didn't go through. So I just used any function where if you plugged in 3, okay, sorry, if you plugged in 3, you would get -2. So I know that if you multiply 3 by 2 and subtract by 8, you'd get -2. You can pretty much do that for any number, right? So let's say I decided to do 4x, let me think, 12 minus 14. Okay, that would work also, right? Because 4 times 3 is 12, minus 14 is -2. So I picked any random function where if you plug in 3, okay, because p of 3 is equal to -2. All right, so that's a bit more complicated. You should be familiar with functions to kind of see what's going on here. And if you have questions about functions, I'm actually planning to do a whole separate lesson just on functions. So don't worry about it if you don't get it right away. Alrighty. All right, number 30. Which of the following is an equivalent form of the equation of the graph shown in the xy plane above, from which the coordinates of vertex A can be identified as constants in the equation? Okay. So this is basically they're asking you which of these equations shows the vertex A. Okay, which of these equations shows the vertex A and is equivalent to this right here? All right, so if you've worked with quadratic equations and graphing before, I'm sure you reviewed something called vertex form. Okay, and vertex form is drawn as such. X minus h squared plus k. And if you remember, hk usually refers to the center, or in this case is equal to the vertex. Okay, so in our case, we're looking for something where the vertex is 1, and then down here it looks like it's about like -16. -16. Okay, so we're looking for something that kind of looks like this. A x minus 1, right? Because that's the x coordinate of our vertex, plus k, and k is -16. So we want to see something that looks like this. Okay, a times x minus 1 squared plus minus 16, which just means -16. And just looking at this, I see that D looks very much like this. The only difference is that A is equal to 1, right? They don't have A here. A is equal to 1, so they don't even write it. But everything else looks exactly the same. So if we wanted to confirm that this is equal to their original equation, all we have to do is FOIL, right? We want to expand this right here, and we're going to FOIL, okay? So if you recall how to FOIL, we see that first times first is x squared, right? First times first. Outer times outer is x times minus 1, which is minus x. Inner times inner, which is I, is equal to x times minus 1 again. So that's minus x. And then last times last is equal to positive 1, right? -1 times -1 is positive 1. And if you add all 4 of these guys together, you get x squared minus 2x plus 1. Okay, and now we want to add minus 16 at the end, and this will equal x squared minus 2x minus 15. Okay, plus 1 minus 16 is minus 15, which is exactly what they have up here. All right, so that's vertex form, and I was just confirming that this is equal to their equation above. All right, awesome. Now we're getting into the short answer portion of the of section 4. Again, this is the first practice test in the College Board, in the new College Board Blue Book. If you're following along, you can actually download the PDF totally for free on their website, and I included the link in the description. So if you want to follow along with me, just click that link, find test 1, download the zip, unzip it, get the PDF, and bam, you're following along with me. And they also have an answer key available, so if I make a mistake, and I probably will, you could just go off and chat, oh, Alan, you're so dumb, you got the wrong answer. I'm cool with it. Okay, I deserve it. So let's move on to the short answer portion. Now, that was the quote-unquote hardest question of the multiple choice. Once you get into the short answer portion, it goes back to easy questions, right? So these questions right here are going to be pretty easy, and they get harder and harder in the short answer piece. We'll probably maybe take a little video break in the middle. I have some YouTube videos that I want to check out that I saw in my recommended channel or in my recommended feed, so maybe we can check those out together. And then once I'm done with section 4, that'll be it for the stream today, and I'll be available for a Q&A if you guys have any questions. Okay, so let's jump into 31. Wyatt can husk at least 12 dozen ears of corn per hour, and at most 18 dozen. Based on this information, what is a possible amount of time in hours that it could take Wyatt to husk 72 dozen ears of corn? So that's a bit weird, because I guess there are multiple solutions for this, right? So if he can do at least 12 and at most 18, I could just pick any number between, like 16. So let's assume he does 16 per hour. Okay, how much would he take to do 72? Well, all we have to do is divide 72 divided by 16, and he does about 4.5. Okay, so I can actually put 4.5 as a solution. As you can see right here, you can have decimal places as solutions. Okay, so I would probably put 4.5 as my answer, but there are a lot of correct answers in this case. So pick whichever one works for you. All right, didn't I tell you these are going to be easy? Once you start in the early section, bam, they get super easy. So make sure you don't spend a lot of your time on the really hard ones. Okay, if you can get over that hump and get to these easy ones, you could always come back to the hard ones later. Do not miss points on the easy questions, right? You want to get these right. So let's get to it. The posted weight limit for a covered wooden bridge in Pennsylvania is 6,000 pounds. A delivery truck that is carrying X identical boxes, each weighing 14 pounds, will pass over the bridge. If the combined weight of the empty delivery truck and its driver is 4,500 pounds, what is the maximum possible value for X that will keep the combined weight of the truck, driver, and boxes below the bridge's posted limit? Okay, so max is 6,000 pounds. We know that, max. Delivery truck is X identical boxes, each weighing 14 pounds. Okay, so we know that all of the boxes together is going to be 14 times X, right? 14X. And then the truck and the driver are 4,500 pounds together. So the truck and driver plus the boxes has a maximum weight of 6,000. All right, and so now all we have to do is solve for X. That's easy enough. So let's isolate X. Again, we want to do the opposite to both sides. Subtract that. Okay, and now this gets canceled out. On the left side, all we have is 14X is equal to 6,000 minus 4,500, which is 1,500. Okay, and then 1,500 we are going to divide by 14, right? Because we want to do the opposite on both sides. So we're going to divide that, and X will be equal to, handy dandy calculator, 1,500 divided by 14 is equal to 107.14. Okay, so the question is, what is the maximum possible value for X that will keep the combined weight of the truck, driver, and boxes, okay, below? So think about that. The maximum possible value. Is it 107.14? Right? It probably wants us to say to the nearest pound, right? So we can say that 107 is the maximum, right? Because we don't want to go over that amount. Cool. So 33. According to the line graph above, the number of portable media players sold in 2008 is what fraction of the number sold in 2011? That's actually pretty easy. So we have number sold in 2008, okay, is 100 million, right? Because this is in millions. So it's 100 mil of the fraction sold in 2011, and 11 is 160 million, right? So we could actually ignore the millions, right? Because if it's 100 over 160, we don't care if it's 100 million over 160 million or 100,000 over, you know what I mean? We just care about 100 and 160. So how do we simplify this fraction right here? We could also get rid of the zeros at the end. Okay, if you have 2 zeros at the end of your fraction, they can cancel out. So now it's 10 over 16, which reduces to 5 over 8. Okay, if you divide them both by 2, you get 5 over 8. So 5 over 8 is our answer. And remember, you can put fractions as your answer as well. 34. A local television station sells time slots for programs in 30-minute intervals. If the station operates 24 hours a day, every day of the week, what is the total number of 30-minute time slots the station can sell for Tuesday and Wednesday? So it's 2 days, right? Tuesday, Wednesday. All right, so it has time slots 30 minutes. So if it's 24 hours, and each hour has 2 time slots, right? Two 30-minute time slots. So that means total time slots in one day will be 48 slots, right? Because again, it's 2 time slots per hour, and there's 24 hours in total. So it's 48 total slots per day, but we want to do 2 days, right? So Tuesday and Wednesday. So in that case, we're going to multiply by 2. And so it's 96 slots in total. All right, so 96 is our answer. So far, so good. We only have 4 problems left. Whoa, 48 minutes into the stream and only 4 problems left. All right, so maybe this is a good time to take a little break. I'm gonna stick around here. I wanna actually check out some of these SAT videos. So let me switch to my video screen here. And what I have here is perfect SAT score reveals secrets to improve SAT score. So apparently this dude scored 2,400 on his SAT.
How did you do on your college entrance exam? Well, it could be the difference between getting into the school that you want to get into.
Let's skip ahead.
2,400. He joins us this morning to give some tips to relieve some of the
stress
that you might be dealing with before you take that test. Sean, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Okay, so you're a local.
Let me get some more water.
I graduated from Clark High School 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Back then, I got a perfect score on my SAT, like you said, which of the 7.5 million students who have taken the exam, only about 1,500 have done. So really something cool and unique here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, you take a lot of pride in, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, no, it worked out really nicely for me because of my score in academic achievement of Clark's valedictorian, and received over $230,000 in college scholarships to go to college.
That is huge. I know your parents just love you for that.
Oh yeah, no.
That's cool. Okay, now, you know, a lot of students might be saying, okay, yeah, whatever. He probably is the guy in school who doesn't have to study. You open a book and you already know all the answers to everything. Are you that kind of, or were you that kind of student where you had to, you know, just look at a book and you're done, or did you have to study? Did you have to work really hard?
Oh no, it's all about studying and working hard. I put, you know, hours outside of my regular high school classes to prepare specifically for the exam, because there were questions you don't see in your normal math and English classes. So you really have to put that time in outside.
Is that Sean Patel from Shark Tank? I don't know. Is it?
For other students who are prepping for this test.
Yeah, the first thing is you want to practice. You know, practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
But not just practice with any questions. You want to practice with questions produced by the College Board. The College Board is a company that produces the SAT.
Okay.
So those
We're doing that. Real questions from the College Board.
You see on actual exam test day. And so in the company that I just started, 2400 Expert, students see over 3,000 questions in the course.
Okay, and the second tip there on our screen is time yourself.
Yeah, you definitely want to time yourself when you take the exam. It's a long exam. It's 10 sections, 4 hours long. So most high school students aren't used to taking an exam that long, so you want to make sure that you're not overwhelmed on test day.
Okay, well, those are some good tips. And number 3 is prepare your essay.
Yeah,
Essay is optional now.
In 2005, the SAT didn't have an essay, but now they do, and so students and parents always ask me, you know, how do I get ready for this essay? I always tell them you can prepare for it ahead of time by researching some historical, literary, and current event examples, because the essay topics are so general. They're like, you know, should we conform to society? Is authority good? That you can usually tweak your examples to the essay.
Yeah, very good. Well, we are out of time. I'm sure a lot of parents would like to hear a whole lot more from you, especially since you got $230,000 for college.
Yeah.
But where are you working now?
It's 2400 Experts. Students and parents can find more tips and information at 2400expert.com.
Well, congratulations, and thank you so much for coming in. Perfect example. 846, Jason, 2400, perfect score.
Wow. How much?
That's pretty impressive. I like that guy, and honestly, he was pretty brave, very well spoken for his age at the time he appeared here. But apparently, he's been on Shark Tank. I had no idea. So, I mean, actually, I think I do know what you're talking about. Was he selling this like 2400 Experts course? I think I remember that, and I don't think they went for it. If I recall. Let's see, are there any other good videos? Oh yeah, I actually want to see one more thing from him.
My
Let's
parents
see
grew
this.
up thought to the SAT. I spent a lot of time in high school playing sports, doing after-school activities, devouring fast food, surfing the internet, and hanging out with my friends. I knew very little about college or the SAT. My parents grew up in India and never attended a university in the United States. And I was raised in a small motel in Las Vegas where I attended urban public schools my whole life. So I had little direction about how to prepare for the SAT or what I needed to do to get into college. The first time I took a practice SAT in high school, I scored a 7. I spent
All right.
submissions, and my hard work paid off. I ended up scoring only 10 million students have taken.
All right, so that's just kind of like an ad for his service. Oh, Mark Cuban did take the deal. Go him. All right, do we want to see one more? 3 SAT math strategies to raise your SAT score. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, we're not going to watch all 11 minutes. That's loud.
Hello and welcome to Here Tutoring. In this video, we're going to cover the top 3 strategies and tricks to use for the end line. Be ready to use the answer choices to make problems
Alright.
easier and to save time.
And we talked about that earlier.
The SAT math test is
All right, if you have, if you can use your answer choices to help you solve it, even if it's like plug and check, that's a totally legitimate way to solve SAT questions.
not a normal math test in the sense that do questions on the SAT plug some short key C, which would result in only needing to try one more answer choice after that at most to find the right answer.
This one's okay.
If C was too high, then you would know that the answer will be either A or B, which are lower, and so you would only need to try one of these to find the right answer. If you pick the right choice, then that's it.
All right. Well, for this, it's not always the case where you're going to be checking, oh, this one is too high or too low. I guess in the few circumstances where you have that, this might be smart, but a lot of times you'll be solving first, getting the answer, and it has nothing to do with the actual range of questions.
The right choice. And if you pick the wrong choice, C was you will up choice. Because if this middle choice ends up being too high or too low, but also you say one marble or yellow.
All right, wait. Strategy two, please. Strategy 2.
Easy
Okay.
numbers rather than trying to figure out the question algebraically. For some questions, Doing the question the right way, algebraically, will be really complex and end up being a mess, and not be the way the SAT actually wants you to do the question, which is to use critical thinking to find the...
So this is actually a very wise strategy, and in the first test that I did on Sunday, or sorry, yeah, it was in the non-calculator portion. We did this about 2 times, where we actually used our own numbers instead of playing around with like P and Q. We're like, oh, let's set P to 100 because we're dealing with percents. So this is actually a really wise strategy, and we might come back to this if we see it in today's test.
Shortcut and easy way to
All right, let's see strategy 3 so we get back to our own SAT.
involve math. They also involve being able to understand and piece together what is being asked. So, for this part of the video, we're just going to go through 4 tricks for normally a good idea to assign variables to the things in the problem we don't know. We're dealing with dogs and cats. Let's
Okay, that's smart.
A for dogs and C for cats. One of the key things to recognize is that the word is or was basically equals.
This is good.
For example, if a problem says the number of dogs is 3 more than the number of cats, we would interpret this as the number of dogs equals 3 more than the number of cats. Or if the problem says 238 is 60% of what, then we would interpret this as 238 equals 60% of what. Then we would interpret cats should be interpreted as 3 plus C at times as this.
Okay.
Is covered. Fourth and finally, know what to do when a question mentions percent more or percent less.
Check that out, huh?
For word problems, percent more means that you take the difference between the 2 numbers and divide this difference by the smaller number and then multiply by 100. And percent less means that you take the difference between the 2 numbers and divide this difference by the bigger number and then multiply by 100.
So actually, I think I have a slightly better trick for this percent more or percent less. Instead of remembering, I'm taking difference over the smaller number or the bigger number, you always want to take the difference over the original number. So for example, if they're asking you, what is 10% more of 100, or 10% more, percent less, right? Or, okay, sorry. So let's say it goes up from 100 to 160, right? How much higher percent more did it increase? You do the difference over the original. So if it's percent more, you do it divided by 100, right? If you're decreasing from 160 to 100, what is the percent, what percent did it decrease by? You do the difference, 160 minus 100, over the original, which would be over 160. All right, so I don't like remembering small or bigger. That's hard to remember. Just remember divided by the original number. Is it going from down up or from up down? All right, so enough video fun. If you have any video recommendations, maybe throw them in the chat. But we are getting back into it. Let's go back to our math screen. Oh no, not that one. That one. Do I know what KD College Prep is? I actually do not know. I've never heard of that. But if it's good, yeah, keep on going for it. I'm familiar with Kaplan. I actually took Kaplan when I was a student. And truth be told, it helped. It actually helped a lot because I got to see what a test is like, and I got to do a lot of practice tests. I would say the teacher was not the best because every student had some little itty-bitty question about something, and it would kind of take over the whole class. So if you had a specific question, she probably wouldn't be able to get to it if there were like 25 kids in the class. So the actual teaching part wasn't good. The taking tests, practice tests, was very helpful. But the funny thing is that even on the practice tests, I was doing not that well. Like on my last practice test before the real exam, I think in the math I was scoring, I don't know, like upper 600s and low 700s, and I was always a pretty good math student. And then because I got all that practice and I did more in between Kaplan and the real test, I ended up getting 800 on the actual SAT math. So I would say just practice tests are probably the #1 way to study. And this is a way for us to actually review those practice questions. And you can, always wait your turn. Oh, if you have a problem with number 32, you could always wait until that part in the stream to tune in. Okay, so 35. A dairy farmer uses a storage silo that is in the shape of a right circular cylinder above. If the volume of the silo is 72 cubic yards, 72 pi cubic yards, what is the diameter of the base of the cylinder in yards? So with cylinders, I actually have a little trick to remember what the volume of a cylinder is, right? If you think about it, a cylinder is just like a stack of discs, right? Just like a stack of, I'm going to draw these really badly, but it's just like a stack of discs, all right? And each of those discs, how do you find out what the area is of each of those discs? Well, it's the same area of a circle, right? Each of those discs is just a regular circle. So the area of those circles is pi r squared, right? But we're not trying to find out what the area of those discs are. We're trying to find out what the volume of that entire cylinder is. So we want to multiply the area of each circle times the height of the cylinder, right? So if the height is 8 yards in this case, it's like 8 discs in a row. So in this case, it's pi r squared times h. Right? So pi r squared times h is equal to the volume of a cylinder. Okay? So we know that the volume is equal to 72 pi. We want to know what the diameter is. So let's set up the equation. So it's pi r squared times h. What is h in our case? H is equal to 8. So 8 times pi times r squared is equal to 72 pi. Let's solve this. Well, we want to divide, first of all, pi. We see pi on both sides. We could actually divide pi on both sides, and they both cancel out. Bam. So now we have 8r squared is equal to 72. Again, we're going to do the opposite to both sides. So we're going to divide by 8, divide by 8. Okay, this gets crossed out. And now we have r squared is equal to 72 divided by 8, which is equal to 9. R is equal to 3, right? Because we know r squared is equal to 9. You take the square root of both sides. So r is then equal to 3. Okay, and funny enough, square rooting is the opposite of squaring. So the opposite stuff still works in this case. So r is equal to 3. So is 3 our answer? No, right? We want to know the diameter. Okay, so if the radius is 3, the diameter is equal to 6. Okay, so the diameter is twice the radius, so the diameter is 6. So 6 is our answer. Very nice. 36. For what value of x is the function h above undefined? So what would make this ugly looking fraction undefined? If you know a thing or two about fractions, you know the main no-no in a fraction is having the denominator equal to 0. Okay? If the denominator is equal to 0, this is undefined. This is null. Okay? So we know that the denominator cannot equal 0. So our goal right now is to figure out what x value will this denominator need for the entire thing to equal 0, because we know that that is completely undefined. So let us set this denominator equal to 0 and solve for x. So we're going to set x minus 5 squared plus. And if you have this problem right now in front of you, I would say try to do it even faster than me. I'm going to go slow with it, so you can kind of almost mute me if you want to do it yourself. So how are we going to do this? We're going to FOIL, and we talked about FOIL a little earlier in the stream, so you can go back to that. So we're going to FOIL this, x squared minus 10x plus 25. We're going to distribute the 4 to both of those, plus 4x minus 20 plus 4 is equal to 0. Okay, let's combine like terms. I see these are like terms. I see these are like terms. So we're going to have x squared minus 10x plus 4x. Minus 10 plus 4 is minus 6x. Okay, and now we're going to combine these three terms. 25 minus 20 is 5, plus 4 is 9. So we're going to have plus 9 as our third term there. What the heck did I just do? Okay, so how do we solve this polynomial? This is a very common form, okay? You should be able to solve this if it's equal to 0. This is a 0, okay? The way we solve this is we want to factor this trinomial on the left side. So how do we factor? We want to factor so that it is in 2 parentheses as such, right? Basically, is this times this will equal to x squared minus 6x plus 9. Well, if you think about it, right, if we're FOILing, we know that x times x has to be x squared. That's the only thing that will equal x squared, right? So f first times first will always be x squared. Okay, what is last, right? What is going to be here and what is going to be here? Well, we know it has to multiply to 9 and then add to minus 6. So what is something that multiply? What are 2 numbers that multiply to 9 and add to negative 6? We know that it's going to be minus 3 and minus 3. Okay? And so we see that x minus 3 times x minus 3 is equal to 0. So if this is the case, what could x be? What could x be to make either this thing or this thing equal to 0? And the only thing that it can be is 3. Okay, so x must be equal to positive 3, and that would make this entire denominator 0, which would be undefined. All right, and I see in the chat, Bob with the correct answer. Way to go. I hope you didn't look in the back of the answer book. I'm just kidding. All right. Last 2 questions. Oh my God, that's it. We're almost done with this test. Last 2 questions. 37 and 38. Okay. Jessica opened a bank account that earns 2% interest compounded annually. Her initial deposit was $100. Then she used the expression 100 times x to the t to find the value of the account after t years. What is the value of the expression? Okay, so this is annual compounding or compounding interest. And if you're familiar with these, the equation for the interest, okay, goes as such. A is equal to PR, oh, sorry, 1 plus R to the T, right? This is for simple compounding, right? So first, what is P? P means principal, right? This means what you start with, okay? A is what you end with, okay? R is the rate, the interest rate, except it's a decimal, okay? Do not forget that R is a decimal. And T is how many times, or T is how many years this is being compounded. Okay, so in our case, the rate, R, is equal to 2%. So how do we write 2% as a decimal? 0.02. Okay, so R is equal to 0.02. And now they're asking us, what is this right here? What is X? Well, we know that X is going to be 1 plus R, or 1 plus 0.02, which is equal to 1.02. So the answer to our problem here, X is equal to 1.02. All right, and this would be a very, let me see, do I have a square here? Yeah. this would be a very wise equation to know. Simple interest. I promise it'll come up at least once every 2 tests. You know, so you might get lucky and it won't be on it, but there's a 50% chance that you'll probably see this problem on the test, or a problem involving simple interest. All right, so Bob and Stealthy are both in it, getting the correct answers. That's what I like to see. All right, feel free to shout out your answers, and actually it'll hype me up a little bit because I know that you're paying attention and that you're working towards getting a higher score. All right, so the very last question of test number 4, section 4 of test 1, the very first test in the College Board new book. Okay, so the question is, Jessica's friend Tyshawn found an account that earns 2.5% interest compounded annually. Tyshawn made an initial deposit of $100 into his account. At the same time, Jessica did also. After 10 years, how much more money will Tyshawn's initial deposit have earned than Jessica's initial deposit? Round your answer to the nearest cent and ignore the $ when gridding your response. So let's come back to our equation here, right? We have A is equal to P times 1 plus R to the T. Okay? Let's do Tyshawn first. He earns 2.5%, right? So he starts with 100. We're going to do, remember, 2.5%. We're moving the decimal place twice. So that would be 0.25. Okay, so plus 0.25. And then they said 10 years. So we're taking this to the 10th power. Right, so that's Tyshawn. Jessica is 100 times 1 plus 0.02, right? Because she has 2% compounded yearly. And she's also going for 10 years. So we're seeing how much more is Tyshawn's interest or final value versus Jessica's. Okay? So his is equal to 1.025 to the 10th power. Can we do that on my little I don't know if my my calculator here has the power to do 1.025 to the 10th. Okay, I'm gonna get a better calculator next time, but for now I'm just gonna put it into Google. 1.025 to the 10th power. So I think I could just, let's see, 1.025. So that's equal to 1.28 about. So that's about equal to 1.28 times 100. My handwriting is just getting worse every single minute. So we know 1.28 times 100 is 128. Okay? And it's actually 0.2801, so it's actually it's like this. All right, so what is 1.02 to the 10th power? 1.02 to the 10th power. Yeah, Bob is saying I should get a TI-84 calculator thing on your screen. Do you know how to do that? I saw that Khan Academy has something like that. If you can give me a link or something so how I could show a TI-84 on my screen, that would be awesome. And I would be forever grateful to you. So 1.02 to the 10th is equal to 1.219. So this is equal to 1.2. Okay, so this is going to be 121.90. Okay, and all we have to do is find the difference between 121.90 minus 128.01. Okay, I did it backwards, but we see that the difference is $6.11. Ba-bam. So that was the hardest problem on the SAT math section, right? Because it's the last problem of the short answer section. But really, we saw if we know how to use simple compound interest formula, that's pretty easy, right? It's I don't know. I thought that was not the hardest one at all. So yeah, we're basically done with this test. I will be streaming test number 2 on Thursday at 7 p.m. Right now might be a good time if you want to hit the subscribe button. I'm going to give you a little shout out. And then you'll also get auto-notified. That's not even a word. You'll get auto-notified when I'm live on Thursday. You know, maybe I'll be a few minutes early. And then might give you some time for some Q&A for the subscribers out there. All right, so apart from that, I'm going to take probably another 5-10 minutes for questions. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. This is the second stream. I'm trying to do this all summer, every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. And I'm not committed to SATs. If there's, another subject that you prefer, if you're looking to do ACTs maybe, I could definitely look into that, see if there are any tests available online, and work through some of those questions. So yeah. I'm also going to work on maybe getting some music going. What do you guys think of some like light little beats in the background? Thank you, Stealthy, for the kind words. I appreciate it. I'm definitely going to keep doing these streams, and they're going to get better. This is only the second stream. Can I make verbal videos like critical reading and writing? So I have done that before, and I have private students who work with me on reading and writing. I'm not as confident in teaching those as I am math, so I'm going to keep with math, I think, for at least another 2 to 3 weeks. But if that gets a little stale, or if you guys really want reading and writing, I could definitely go into some of my top tips for verbal, both critical reading and writing. Because there, I think, are some really good tips that they don't tell you in like the Kaplan books that can help you increase your score for those, for sure. Music would be awesome. Yeah, I think I have a source, because the thing is with music, I can't just turn on Spotify because they'll mute out copyrighted music, so I need to find a way to get royalty-free music, but I think I have a source that will work out. So keep the suggestions coming. What else do you guys think? I created this little overlay today. I think it works pretty well. If you could see, I stretched out this this TV screen because old TVs back in the day were different ratios, right? They're not 16:9 like they are now. They were 4:3. So I had to stretch it out for modern aspect ratio. Actually, what I was wondering? How is the sound, guys? I have a question on a paper, but I'm going to send a picture of it to you. Yeah, we'll figure out user-submitted questions, like physical user-submitted questions. I'm going to think about that for next time. But yeah, actually, what do you guys think of the sound? I have an AC unit going in the background, and it's really hot in the apartment, so I can't turn it off. But does it bother you guys? Like, do you hear any sort of humming sounds? Oh, okay. Awesome. Can't hear the unit. Can you hear me chewing ice? I'm like an ice addict. And also, if you were curious, I was waiting to hear one of these guys, but for subscribers, you'd get this message. Wait, let me switch back to here. Wait for it. Pretty cool, huh? I want to hear that one more time because I like the sound. Sweet. Man, it's getting a little dark in here. Sundown. I'm kind of using natural light from the outside, so the sun is going down pretty quickly. What if I Do you want to? Guess that works. What time is it? 8:20? Yeah, I'll stick around for a few more minutes if anybody wants to log on and ask a few Qs. Packets of SAT prep. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I almost exclusively use the official College Board questions, because a lot of times, like those third-party test makers, like Princeton Review and Kaplan, they almost get the right style, but not quite. You know, you want to be using legitimate College Board tests, because you know that's exactly the type of question that they'll be asking you on the real test. Sometimes, like the Kaplan questions are unnecessarily over-worded to make it harder, and I don't think that's legitimate. So you'll probably only see me using official College Board tests like I did today. But the problem is they run out, you know? So there's only a finite number of tests that you can get online, or even in the Blue Book. You know, there's only like 6 tests, I want to say. So once you run out of those, I guess you have to use third-party material. You don't have a choice. All right, next time I'm eating ice, I'm going to mute the mic. Yeah, there's a lot of material out there. Both video, textbooks, like hint books. These are the top 10 best secrets for scoring a 2400. But I think live stream is a cool way to do it. So you guys can ask questions. And I also think live streaming doesn't have to just be video games. So we're going to try to start a movement. All right, education live streams, so that you guys can choose your own teachers. All right, you don't want to be stuck with some teacher does not explain anything. If you like the streamer and they explain things well, that should be your permanent teacher going forward. That's what I think about things. Waiting for the Bob question of the day. The anticipation is killing me. Can he post it before I go? Sweet. All right. What if it's a really hard question and I have no idea how to answer it? I'm just going to pretend that my computer exploded. I'm just going to turn off the stream. Yeah, definitely going to do that. Hope you guys tune in on Thursday. It's gonna be the third day of streaming. Might get a little music going. It's gonna sound better. It's gonna look better. Just going to increase in quality every single week or every single stream. So tell everybody you know, Thursday, 7 p.m., tune in for the ultimate in math SAT streaming. 7 p.m. Stealthy. All the streams are going to be always 7 to 9 p.m. Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Sub, and you'll get a reminder. Now, can you guys read the handwriting at all? Oh, sorry. It's 7 p.m. Eastern. Are you guys on the West Coast? Is that what it is? Sweet. Central. Maybe get a different pen. Yeah, I was looking into different pens. I think there's really only one that works, or at least like one size that works for my drawing pad. What I think I'm gonna do is, I think I have a solution. So I'm gonna expand my writing canvas almost, so that if I move because right now if I move my pen a little bit, I have like a big LCD screen, so it kind of like shoots it across the screen. If I expand my writing canvas, then like I'll move it a little bit, and the cursor will only move a little bit. So that will allow me some precision movements on the screen. I'm gonna try that for Thursday. We'll see if that works. I don't want to test it out right now and just break everything. So I'm curious, how did you guys find out about the stream? If you're in Central, he's posting the link on the lesson 1 video. Okay. Can you post it in the chat? Is that possible? Or do they not allow links in the chat? I should be able to access it though. All right, let's see if I can find that. I posted in your last stream video. Okay. That should be easy enough to... Okay. See, I'm still curious how you guys found out about the stream. If you're all the way in the central time zone there. All right, I see your question here. It's accepted. Can you rotate it? Having a hard time. And I'm gonna try to create a new. Duplicate that. Okay. And should please understand. You guys see that? Wait, except how am I going to write the answer? Okay, so timeout, timeout. I wonder if I could just annotate on that directly. You put the wrong question? After all that. All right, put in the right question. Oh, I see. So Bob is the install guide commenter from the last video. All right, it's all coming together now. I see, I see. What did I just do? I ruined everything. I literally just ruined everything. I got you guys, I got you, I got you. Bam. Put that to the bam. Now I'm on top. Yeah, boom, boom, boom. Calculator, we don't need right now. Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah, these are very popular types of questions. All right, so I won't have to fake my my computer exploding in this case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write x. Sorry, x equals. I'm going to rewrite it on my PDF thing, and then I will switch to that scene. Does that say VO? Whatever. So this 1/2. Alrighty. Oh. Wow. Okay, so they're actually solving it in an interesting way. Okay, you ready for this? So let me switch it back to... What did I just do? I messed everything up. Oh man, sorry guys. I messed everything up. Alright, I'm blaming this on Bob. That's obvious. Okay. So, if I understand this correctly, what they want you to do in this problem is basically solve for t in terms of the other variables, right? And so if you see the solutions, right, you'll see that C and D, they have this like crazy form with the plus minus and this and the this and the blah blah blah, okay? And if you guys recall what this is right here, this is the quadratic formula. Okay, and so the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, and this works for any quadratic equation that can be written in standard form like that. So can we write this in standard form? Well, I see we have a squared here and we have a t here, okay? So actually what they want you to see here is that t is kind of like x in this case. All right, so if I rewrite this, I have 1/2 a t squared plus VOT plus XO, X naught, however you want to call it. Okay, so what is our A, what is our B, what is our C? A is going to be next to the square term, right? Just like you see A is next to the square term here. A, in our case, is equal to 1/2 A, right? And that's just a coincidence that they're both called A. B is next to the x term, or the t term in our case, so B is equal to V of 0, or V naught. And C is going to be just the constant term at the end, which is x, or x naught. So if we were to now write it in the quadratic, again, this is the quadratic formula here. If we are now to write these guys in the quadratic formula, we would see it would be negative V, okay, plus or minus, why is that so far away? Plus or minus the square root of, right, minus 4AC. So it's going to be 4 times 1/2 times, or sorry, okay, 1/2 A, okay, because it's A times C, all over 2 times 1/2 A, right? Because it's all over 2A. Does this make sense to you guys? Did I go a little bit too fast, or does that make sense to Bob especially, because you asked this question? So if you were to actually solve this, and I'll put in this little space here, it would be negative plus or minus the square root of this squared minus 4 times 1/2 is 2, right? So it's going to be 2A over 2 times 1/2 Yeah, it makes sense so far, but I don't know how to get it to match the final answer choice. Oh. That's my fault. That's my fault. Yeah, I made a mistake here. So for a quadratic formula to work, it has to equal to 0. That was a huge thing I overlooked. My bad. Remember, this whole thing has to be equal to 0. So in order for our equation to be equal to 0, we were supposed to subtract x on both sides. You see that? This x right here has to be subtracted. So in our case, it would be subtracted here. So our c term is going to be this right here. So that's on me. I'll take the blame for that. You see what I'm talking about? Quadratic formula has to be equal to 0 for it to work. So in our case, this is going to be minus x. And this is going to be 2a. Oh, sorry, it's minus x. Yeah. That's actually a really good question. That's pretty fun to do. And it's a tough one, I would imagine, for students who aren't familiar with quadratic formula. So wait, see, at nighttime, my green screen starts freaking out. Let's see, what can I do to... Because I don't want to turn on this giant light. I have like this huge softbox lighting thing. All right, we're gonna do some experiments. All right, we got time. We're gonna do some experiments here. So I'm gonna leave that like that. Okay, so my face looks normal. Then I'm gonna plug in this giant lighting here. Okay, so far so good. Then I'm gonna turn it on. Oh, whoa! Hey. Boom. Yeah, that's really bright, but yeah, it's like really bright. But I guess that's the best way to do it for now, so you guys can see me. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for actually posting it, for going through the trouble of sharing the Google Doc. See, I told you we're improving the stream every single day. We got the lighting now. We have 2 lightings actually. Okay, so for next time, I know that once it gets dark outside, pop open this bad boy, and we're gonna be illuminated for the rest of the stream. Okay, so yeah, that I guess wraps it up for today. Thank you guys so much for being active in the chat. I really do appreciate it. And if you guys have time on Thursday, please feel free to stop by the stream. Subscribe if you want. And if you want to tell anybody who is also studying for the stream or for the SATs to join us then as well. So I'll see you guys Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Peace out.